The highly anticipated TV anime adaptation of Little Witch Academia is finally here. So many have been waiting a very long time for this to get a TV anime adaptation, because it started off as an OVA, gained a lot of popularity, and eventually it got a movie. And thanks to its popularity, eventually got turned into a TV series, which we're seeing now. Now, as I promised in what I will watch for Winter of Anime 2017, I said I was going to be watching the OVA and the movie just to kind of get a grasp of what Little Witch is about, because I've never seen it before, and I decided to watch it just 2 days ago to kind of see what the series is about before, the TV anime adaptation finally aired. So, I haven't made a video and given you all my thoughts on the, the OVA or movie, so I'm going to kind of say my overall piece on, how the OVA is and the movie alongside of this first impressions of the TV series. So it's just my overall first impressions of this series. So I noticed two big distinct differences between the OVA movie and this TV series. And many are going to be asking, do I need to watch the OVA and movie to watch this TV series? And to be honest with you, you don't need to. You definitely do not need to. After looking at the events of this first episode of Little Witch Academia, the TV series, it's completely different, and it's going a completely different direction, kind of, from the OVA and movie. The OVA and movie are set in the same universe, the same timeline and stuff, while the TV series, even though it has the same characters, the same voice actors, Studio Trigger still working on it, and I mean, overall, some of the plot elements in the OVA and movie is a little bit similar, it's still like, let's say, a different universe. It's like a different timeline, so to say. So, even though there's some events that happen in the OVA, those events don't happen in the TV series, like, finding the shiny rod. If you've watched the OVA, you'll know how Akko, she found the shiny rod in, like, that big pile of junk, and then that's how she got it. Well, in this, the first episode, she got the shiny rod in the middle of a forest. So there's some very distinct differences between the OVA and also this new TV series. So, in my personal opinion, you do not need to watch the OVA movie to start Little Witch Academia, which is a good thing. I'm very glad they went about that like that, because I want to actually see characterization and world building right from the start and how these characters all met. Because to be honest with you, when I watched, the OVA and, the movie, there was a couple of things that felt rather lacking, in my personal opinion. And I felt like it came down to the time constraint. As we know, an OVA and a movie, depending on how short the movie is, it was like a 55-minute movie, and the OVA was like only like 30-something minutes. That's just not enough time overall because of the time frames between the OVA and then the movie, and also what, how they were focused on two separate things. Like, the OVA was focused on just introducing, the characters in the world, while the second movie tried to have a little plot with a parade, and there was just, they weren't really entirely connected. Like, they didn't continue from, let's say, episode 1 to episode 2, even though we know they were set in the same timeline, they just didn't continue the plot from, let's say, the OVA. And so there was a lot of complaints I had about watching the OVA movie because there wasn't a whole lot of, characterization. I mean, we got some of the personalities, but there wasn't a lot diving into their motives and stuff, or, all the other stuff when it came to the world building. But thanks to the TV adaptation, a lot of my answers or questions I had about the series when I was watching the OVA and the movie have kind of been answered, because with the start of this, I'm getting characterization right off the bat. I'm seeing these characters, getting their personalities kind of fleshed out, getting to see how they act around them and how they met in the first place, and also to see how the school structure works. So, overall, my complaints I had with the OVA and the movie are being answered, and as I already said earlier on in this video, the main problem it came down to is probably because of time constraints. They couldn't answer and explain everything in an OVA and a movie, so thankfully a TV series is finally coming out to kind of give clarification to some of these things I was questioning for the past couple days after watching the OVA and movie. So yeah, I mean, the start is definitely helping out. Like, it definitely made my first impressions of Little Witch very positive. I mean, I loved watching the OVA, and I loved watching the movie. It had a very good world, it's very pretty, colorful, very colorful color palette, and I do like some of the characters. The characters are very quirky, it's just they weren't dived into completely, and I'm glad to see that the first episode is actually doing that. Now, with that being said, what is Little Witch Academia about? If you have not watched the OVA and you have not seen the movie, and this is your first time seeing or hearing about this series, what is it about? Well, as you can see by the title, Little Witch Academia. It's where witches go to school to learn magic. And our main female character, Akko, she doesn't have any experience with magic whatsoever. When she was a kid, she went to a magic show, and this idol she holds on a pedestal, she kind of inspired her to be a witch. And because of this, it made it to where she wanted to go to this school to become a witch, learn magic and stuff, and be like her idol. And so that's kind of the entire plot from what we got right now. She wants to learn magic, and she wants to become a great witch thanks to how her idol was in the past and how she gave her this inspiration since, you know, the beginning of her life. Now, one thing I do like about how it's being set up and the similarities between the first episode and the OVA is that it seems like there is a lot of disdain for the idol that Akko holds in high regards. If you've watched the OVA, you know that many people in the magical world, as we found out in the OVA, they do not like that idol that Akko loves. They don't like her at all. Like, it's a false, I guess, view on how the magical world looks, and nobody likes the way she kind of presents herself in the world, and so Akko was like, why does no one like her? This is fucked up, and it seems like not many want to talk about her at all in the first episode. You see where not many people care about her or want to talk about her, so it seems like that overall plot point from the OVA is carrying over into the TV series, and I hope that gets dived into and expanded upon, because there's a lot of questions I had about that when it came to, you know, the OVA movie. Like, what's going on there? Like, why does no one really completely care about her? I mean, we got the images of how witches are viewed in public. Not many of them are viewed favorably in public thanks to the movie. And then in the OVA, we got to find out that there's just a lot of disdain towards, you know, Akko's idol. So, I mean, hopefully all these little things get, you know, expanded upon, which most likely it will, because we already see kind of examples of it going on in the first episode. Now, the next thing to talk about, too, that I do like the direction where it's going, I do like how the ley lines were done. And ley lines are not something that's a new concept to, let's just say, Little Witch Academia in general, because there's a lot of magical series out there, not just anime, but TV shows, movies, books, that use ley lines all the time. Even Fate Stay Night uses stuff like this. Ley lines is something that's been used constantly in magical type series with witches or wizards or mages. It's not something that is brand new. However, I do like the little details we got, and explained a lot about Akko's idol and where she went off to at the earlier stages of episode 1, and also even in the OVA, because as we know, she just ends up disappearing. And if you look at the portal that kind of opens up at the beginning of episode 1, you see it looks like the ley line portal that we see that our characters, our main three trio, open up later on in the episode. So it shows where, you know, her idol went in the first place. So, I mean, yeah, the start of Little Witch Academia is a very solid start. It still doesn't explain everything, which is to be expected, but it's going down a path that makes me actually appreciate the series, and I'm glad it finally did get an anime adaptation, because the world is going to be able to be expanded upon, and so is the characters. So let me know your thoughts. I mean, how do you all feel about the first episode of Little Witch? How do you feel about, you know, how it feels like an anime version of Harry Potter? I mean, there's differences, obviously, but it's kind of like the anime version of Harry Potter. How do you all feel about this? Do you like that concept? Do you hate this concept? Are you glad to finally see it get an anime adaptation, like a TV series anime adaptation? Or are you disappointed? Please let me know your honest thoughts in the comments below. But my personal opinion, I have to say, this is looking to be maybe, I'm not saying it will be, but it may become the anime of the season, depending on the direction, depending on where Studio Trigger wants to take it, because, I mean, that can happen anyway. I mean, with any studio, it depends on what direction they want to take it, but, I mean, Studio Trigger, they're known for doing some crazy and wacky shit, and it's a very likely possibility that this series can do something just like their previous series they have made. Now, overall, what I want from this series, now, this is just my personal preference, it doesn't mean it needs to happen, because Studio Trigger, they love doing surprises and stuff, but I really would like this series to focus more on the magical learning aspect, like learning magic, because if there's one thing I am fascinated about when I read or watch a series, it's the characters learning magic. I don't know, it's something about that that really makes me fascinated, just seeing characters trying to dive in and trying to experiment with magic, learn stuff about it, how to, like, conjure flames or different things like that. It's something that really interests me, and I'm sad that not a whole lot of series like to dive into this, and I mean, I do hope that Little Witch Academia, since it is based on a character trying to learn magic and trying to become, you know, better witch, hopefully it focuses on that aspect. I hope this kind of becomes more of a character-driven story than anything else. I mean, I would love to see how the characters shape their world around them because of their actions. I mean, there most likely will be a plot, I mean, going on with, you know, Akko's idol, but I do hope it's more focused on the characters instead of just trying to do a centralized plot, like a big plot, and like you would see from a normal series. I'd like to see Trigger focus more on just the characters in general, but that's just my personal preference. If they want to go down the plot route, do something crazy, that's Studio Trigger for you, which I'm completely fine with. It'll most likely be unexpected, I won't expect what's going to happen, but I mean, still, I would love to see the characters focused on and dived into and given, you know, some good characterization and development. Anyways, with that being said, I'm going to conclude this video here. Let me know your honest thoughts in the comments below. I love you all so much. Please be safe. Chibi out.